Joining us now, Andrij Dobriansky, that's the Director of Communications with the Ukrainian Congress Committee for America. Andrij, it's good to have you. Let's take a look at that proposed peace plan. It has some major asks from the United States. It would have Ukraine give up land in the eastern part of the country, cap the size of its military, and agree that it will never join the NATO alliance. Zelensky calling it a difficult choice at this time. Does anything in this proposal truly protect Ukraine from another possible Russian attack in the future? Or is this really the United States just prioritizing ending this war?
I think you hit the nail on the head about security guarantees. That's not really something that's mentioned in the deal. A lot of these terms we heard when Secretary Rubio met in Saudi Arabia with the Russians. It wasn't good enough for Secretary Rubio then. I would be surprised if he meets with the team of European leaders and he decides that it's good enough now. The reason that they're meeting with the European leaders is that Steve Witkoff proposed in this plan that he worked out with the Russians, with Dmitriev in Florida, when he was hanging out in Miami for a week, that they were proposing that Ukraine, you mentioned about the clause not to have Ukraine join NATO, and then there's a clause about having Ukraine join the EU. Now, none of this was run by the members of NATO or the members of the EU. So purportedly, there will be a conversation with European leaders at some point. This is something that Steve Witkoff hasn't done. Neither was he talking with the Ukrainians directly about this. So it's still something that's very much in flux, and we're going to have to wait to see what the next steps are.
Yeah, I suppose at the very least it signals progress in conversations, that this is still top of mind for everyone, whether or not it's a realistic goal. Tell me a little bit about how the deal looks in terms of Russia. It doesn't seem as if they're giving up much of anything. Does that surprise you, that it seems as if it's kowtowing more to Russia than it is to Ukraine?
No, it's very surprising because, again, a lot of these terms we heard not just this year when the United States met in Geneva, it also met in Istanbul, they met in Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned, but these proposals have been coming out of Russia in 22, 23, 24. Capitulate. This is a capitulation plan by Russia proposed by the United States on their behalf. I heard this directly from Senator Schumer when he addressed 1,500 Ukrainians in New York City today. I'm hearing that from the Ukraine caucus in Congress. They also underscored you cannot give up land in a deal. That's not a peace deal. That's not a compromise. Neither is it something that somebody who has actually been to Ukraine do, because there's already landmines, there's dragon's teeth preventing tanks from going forward, and this deal would have you jump over that demarcation line to a place that's not fortified at all. So that's not helpful at all for locking down this conflict. There's a lot of questions, and I believe that what the next step has to be is somebody actually needs to go to Ukraine and visit that front line. And that's what somebody like retired General Keith Kellogg has been doing, while Steve Witkoff has been in Miami and St. Petersburg. But the one place he hasn't been is gone to Ukraine.
No, that's interesting. We were just pulling up a map there that shows sort of the split in the territory, where it currently is at, what the U.S. proposed peace deal might look like. As we see there in the red, recognized de facto as Russian, in the orange color, frozen at contact line. At one point, President Trump said that Ukraine could win back all that territory and more. Is that just completely out the window, that philosophy, that thought pattern? Where exactly do you see this land deal striking?
Well, you're pulling up the Truth Social from September. That was put out by President Trump the day that he met with President Zelensky at the United Nations. I have to a person who was in that room with President Trump on the Ukrainian side, all told me that President Trump told that directly to President Zelensky. He believed at that point, and probably still does, I don't know if other people are telling him otherwise, that Ukraine, with the United States support, could do this. The interesting thing is that Steve Witkoff keeps pushing this plan on behalf of either the vice president or other people in the White House. That is the same plan that Russia put out, as I mentioned, 3 years in a row now, and they're not giving the president maximum pressure. We all know that's what he wants when he gets into a room. That's what Tomahawks gives you. That's what increasing weapon supplies. That's what the sanctions that President Trump put on. And we just have India stopping buying from Russian sanctions this week. If you can keep on doing that, then you have President Trump with maximum pressure against Putin. I think he's getting advice that he should settle now as opposed to down the road when Russia is really at its breaking point.
Yeah, it's a conversation and breaking news that we're obviously going to be following tomorrow when that meeting happens in Geneva. Our White House reporters being told to stay by their phones. So we'll have to see if anything comes from it. Andrij Dobriansky, thank you very much for your time today, sir.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. A new